Well, it's 7:08. I don't have. I'll just make a statement. And I think it's fine. I think it's fine to make the statement that I spoke to Wendy. I mean, spoke to Sharon. I spoke to Sharon, and I'm absolutely convinced we actually need to meet on Monday. I'd like to meet a little earlier, but I think it's too late to change that actual time frame. But I believe, and it's unfortunate. I don't think we can have a full board, but at least I think we can have a discussion for the purpose of setting a meeting time. And at least as a chair, I'm convinced that we need to meet on Monday to make this the financial decision.
Okay.
I agree. I think we have to meet before the 15th. I mean, just from discussions that I had with a few people today, like that it's critical that we make some decision before the 15th.
So you're posted for 7 p.m. on Monday.
Yeah, it is what it is. I was going to go as early as 5 if the board can make it, just to try to accommodate Paul. But if we can't,
yeah. If we could do I can do an earlier time if that works for Paul. Like when he gets on here, let's ask him.
I think but that makes it 46 hours from now.
Right. So it's the same boat.
Yeah. So I think, and thank you, David, for being proactive and just getting it in there safely. So I think it is what it is. It's Monday at 7.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just came into the meeting. I couldn't get on. What are you trying to figure out for?
Oh, sorry. This is regards to select board stuff.
Okay.
Sorry, Michael.
Sorry.
So if you want to wait till 7:50, we're just talking about some emergency select board meeting that we need to deal with. So
just to confirm, Chuck, I think you gave a text. Chuck, you can make Monday at 7 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, good. And George, you can assume this based on. Yeah. Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, I think we should have KP Law on the call to explain why the hell they didn't catch this.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, guys.
Does Sharon need to say anything or hold it till Monday?
I don't think we're posted.
No, you're not. It would just be if
we can't. Well, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
We can discuss the purpose of setting the next meeting. And Chuck, before you got on, and is Jeff still? Yeah, there's Jeff. I spoke to Sharon today, and I am convinced that we do need to meet on Monday for the tax, for the financial discussion. That it cannot wait even another day beyond that, based on having to set the rates on the 15th. So it's unfortunate because I believe not everyone can make it then, and given that Monday 7 o'clock is 47 hours and 50 minutes from now, we can't change the set the agenda. What do you call it? We've set that time at 7 o'clock. I also want to confirm at least most people can make it Monday. Again, just a discussion for the purpose of setting the time and date. George and Chuck indicated they could make it. Jeff, can you make Monday at 7 o'clock?
Yes.
And Paul, it's my understanding, unfortunately, you cannot make Monday at 7 o'clock.
That's correct.
I wonder, is there a way, Paul, you're more knowledgeable, that Sharon submitted a fact sheet that you could supply comments that we wouldn't have open until tonight?
You were breaking up on me there, so I didn't hear what you said, Jeff. Sorry.
Is there a way that you could look at Sharon's fact sheet and supply your input in advance of the meeting that we would not open until Monday night, or a way to avoid open meeting law conflicts, but to get your input, written input?
I really would want to hear the presentations and listen to everything before I took a final position. That isn't to say I don't have a preference right now. I do. But the one thing I learned as a select board member is that you need to listen. I need to listen.
I agree. Trying to think of a way around the problem.
Is there possible to do an early morning meeting, like on Tuesday morning?
Yeah. No. Yes. Yes.
Tuesday morning works for me.
Tuesday morning works for me as well.
I have a meeting from 10 to 11 on Tuesday, so as long as it's not 10 to 11.
So what if we
Can I-
meet like at 8:30 or 9 o'clock or something like that?
8:30 would be good because that gives us time. I can't do much earlier than 8:30, so.
Diane, is Jackie normally here at 8:30
Yes.
tomorrow on Friday?
I don't know whether she's gonna be there tomorrow. I'm gonna have to send her a text and ask her to repost that for Tuesday.
Yeah, the same,
Wendy?
same.
Yeah, it has to
Yep.
be posted tonight, or it can be posted tomorrow at 7 a.m.
She
Yeah.
can do it right from home tonight.
Wendy, is that okay with you? Wendy, do you see any issues with that, pushing it to the morning?
I do. I do, because that's really getting down to the wire. That gives the Division of Local Services and the DOR, essentially, we need to have the rate set. And by meeting Tuesday morning, Jackie has to write up the certification of what you decide. Then it goes to the Bureau of Accounts, and then they approve the tax rate.
But
So
won't
what
the same
would
thing
be-
be, won't the same thing be happening Monday night? So you have a meeting Monday night. Is that going to get done?
Yes.
Monday night?
Yes, it would be certified Monday night and on the Bureau of Accounts desk when they open their, open gateway, everything will be in there. Hours can make a difference. They told us that they're going to be exceptionally busy, but I mean, I can't say for sure if those few hours will make a difference. And they can't say for sure when they'll do it for us. So that concerns me. The drop dead date for Pam to give the certified rate to Point is the 16th, the morning of the 16th. Or that's like the absolute last day she can give them the rate in order for the bills to get out before December 31st.
If you meet at 8:30 on Tuesday, Eric, as long as you don't have a hour discussion on that.
Right.
If people could come in already having researched it over the weekend and understanding it.
I would, I want to make sure the members of advisory that are been involved with this are going to be able to be available as well.
Yeah, it's just Steve and Jane, I think.
Steve and Jane, yeah.
I talked to Steve this afternoon several times.
Honestly, I'm fine with either time. It's just, it's just the inclusive nature of having all 5 selectmen in there. I would like the discussion. What does the board think? I'm fine with either time. I'll make it as long as it's not after 8:30 because I have some meetings that morning at 10.
Well, and I think an 8:30 a.m. meeting is still early enough in the day. I know, Wendy, I don't know how much is going to happen after we finish a meeting at 8 o'clock on Monday night versus 8:30 a.m. on a Monday. Tuesday morning. So I think if it means all 5 of us can be there, it'd make more sense to do it Tuesday morning. Because this is there's a lot to decide here, and this is something that really shouldn't be on the select board, but it should be a town meeting decision, but we've got to really have a discussion about this. And
absolutely, with all 5 of you. Yeah. And honestly, I could have, we don't know what you guys are going to decide, but I could ask Jackie on Monday to write it up, and then as soon as you guys meet, she can send it to us, and then Sharon can upload it into Gateway. So, yeah, it's a few hour difference.
There is, if I understand correctly, there's one direction it looks like we're kind of leaning toward is to consider that direction. You probably could write it up on that direction to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Let's
that's,
have it done.
Eric, that's a great suggestion, Eric.
Yeah. And just let's do that then. So we're okay with Tuesday at 8. Now, just to confirm, there's nothing weird about 8:30 being outside of business hours or anything like that. There's no kind of legal hang up or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
For those of us that work 24/7, that's not outside of business hours.
I know, like you can take the public
Sundays and
meeting
holidays.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you must
Sundays
be a
and
municipal employee. I forgot.
Yeah. I'll meet you out on Union Ave Bridge at midnight. I've been out there several times.
Okay.
I just texted Steven Tsai, so I'll see if he responds.
Eric, I was just wondering if you were the one in charge of all those decorations at the DPW in Framingham. That's what I was wondering.
I wish I was, but no, I am not. I am not. Very into. So a couple of those are the original nutcrackers from the old Shoppers World.
Oh,
Others
cool.
were actually recreated
That's so
by the DPW carpenter.
Oh,
I
wow.
love that.
Very
Yep,
cool.
we did them. Yeah,
I
we got
drive by there all the time and it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like every year you guys have more decorations out there.
because we got. I don't know how many we got. Like maybe 4 of the original ones.
I
Something like
think it
that.
was 4. Yeah.
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 I think there's more.
And then they had to replace the guns with candy canes. They couldn't have like guns anymore. Like, the candy canes.
Yeah.
And then there's
Eric, where did the blow-up doll of Tony Colonna come from?
this meeting's being recorded, Chuck. All right. So just to confirm, all around, speak now or ever hold your peace. Tuesday at 8:30 a.m.
I just wanted to, Eric, it's Jeff. Steven Tsai cannot make it. He's at the working at the hospital that day. He's checking with Jane right now.
Okay.
Can I just, somebody texted me a question about this. So from now on, the Zoom contact information will be the same every week.
For the police?
The Zoom contact information will be the same every week for select board meetings and the search committee meetings.
Yep.
I'll use the same. I have it set up till the end of January and we'll see if it works.
Oh, you did the reoccurring meeting thing. I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a little clunky when you're doing 2 different meetings under one.
Okay.
Worked for me.
Let me know if you hear from anyone else from advisory.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's checking.
If that's a deal breaker, if no one can make advisory or not, I don't know. We can talk about that, or I mean,
I can
George
text
and
Steve
stuff.
Leahy too. Jane, and I don't know about Jane, but I can text Steve.
Steve
Yep.
Tsai is texting Jane right now.
Okay.
So do you
'Cause I
want me to
talked to
wait?
Steve Leahy earlier today. He couldn't make tonight, but he may be able to make Tuesday.
Do you want me
morning.
to wait before I tell Jackie to post? Tuesday? No, tell
Or
her to go
post
ahead
it
and
anyway.
post. Okay.
I think so because they've got 9 people and these are the ones that probably would be most helpful, but
All right. Do we want to get started on our
Sure.
police chief selection committee meeting?
Jeff, just let me know if anyone from advisory like can't make it, whatever else status. Other than that, I think it's time for George to take over the police. 6 minutes into it.
we'll do.
All right.
We'll do.
All right. So I'm going to call to order the Thursday, December 10th, 2020 Select Board Police Chief Selection Committee meeting. So the first item is the hiring process. And I know Vicky had done, and I think Michael as well, had done some research on what happened in some other towns. So I'm going to kind of hand it over to Vicky to describe what she found here. Vicky,
There you go. Hi, everyone. I think you all received the notes that I took the last couple weeks. And basically what I did is I went through and looked at all of the police chiefs that were hired and found as much information as I could online and as regards to the the process that they went through. And then I also included a listing of the police chief outstanding job opportunities that were in the different towns. So, and there were quite a few of those. So that was helpful to just kind of look and see, what we're up against in terms of who's hiring and how many people, how big is the pool? There are quite a few people that were looking for police chiefs. So I was a little surprised myself, actually. But what I found about the process, and Michael can speak to some of this too, because he got a little insight from people today, was that most of them did not have, and it didn't matter what size town, any kind of a consultant. I would say probably 75% did not use a consultant. What they did was had a board similar to ours, and then somebody with an HR background, or somebody was appointed as like the person that kind of went through with a small group some of the resumes that were presented. And from what I could see, that led to quite a bit of angst for everyone, not only for the people on the committee, but for the townspeople, the police. I think the group within the police were not as happy with some of the situations. But when I saw, from what I could see, with the consultants that were used, it eliminated most of that situation. The consultants were used to do a preliminary review of candidates that were out there, and then they brought in the top 5 candidates to be, if there were 5, to be interviewed by the group. So that was the process. I think there were only 2 or 3 names that came up, and those were the ones that we had mentioned last week. Eric, I think you knew one of those groups. From one was in Plymouth, and I gotta get my notes, but so from that standpoint, there weren't a lot of groups out there that did some work as well. It was really mostly 2 or 3 groups that I saw repeated in the process. Michael, did you want to share what you found out today? Where is he? Is he on?
He was.
Where did he go? Is that him right there?
Michael, are you the number ending in 880?
You on mute?
I think
That's
that's
me actually as a backup because I have a bad connection.
Oh, okay. I don't. Michael was on here, and I think he disappeared.
I don't know where he went.
Who's the host? Is he in the waiting room?
Nope.
Yeah.
He was on. He must have got booted out.
I don't see him.
I'll text him.
So David, I know that your main goal tonight was to really kind of go through, is he coming on? No. To go through the process a little bit more so that we could kind of get that buttoned up and start looking for someone, a consultant group.
I mean, at the last meeting, you folks had said that you would like to narrow down or have a scope of work to go out with.
Right.
Just I don't think your scope of work should be that narrow right now, because we want to get in proposals from the people that we want to do business with.
Right.
So
Right.
how do you choose the people that you want to do business with? If somebody has experience already with using a company, a positive experience, I would put them on the list of seeking something from them.
What I'm wondering, it maybe Vicky and team is if we could use the 2-step process. I was hoping that we could maybe get a quals package from some of them, not necessarily a proposal of the detailed work, but qualifications, and say we have whatever 10 people that submit quals, then we could maybe request formal bids from whatever the number is, 3 or 4.
Right.
And the reason I suggested that 2-step approach is because with the holidays coming up, if we meet again next Thursday, the select board does, and we could probably cause there to be a search committee that night for 15 minutes or something. So if we could get the requests for qualifications out by next Thursday, they might be able to work on it and get back to us in early to mid-January.
Well,
Mike just was in the waiting room. I just let him in.
Oh, okay.
So my hope was that we could use this holiday period for them to be prepping their quals package.
If you do the RFQ, I mean, actually, you're just requesting qualifications from people that you're willing to do business with. You're not advertising, right?
Yeah, right.
And then they would submit their qualifications, which we don't have. We don't have to decide what we're looking for right now.
Correct.
So
who's in this space and what their recent qualifications are. They usually with quals, they might give you a couple references also.
yeah, we have the Inspector General like qualification sheets that go out.
Yeah.
So I'll review those. I can send them out to the board to see if anyone wants to, I mean, out to the committee to make any edits to it, but
yeah,
usually they're pretty standard of what they're submitting on their qualifications and the company.
Yeah, but the purpose of the RFQ is to gauge interest. You know, the ones that are really busy right now probably won't submit their quals, so we'll be gauging who's hungry.
Right.
So
Eric, just
is
like, go ahead,
Michael
Eric.
on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to. I would like to at least start progressing towards some outline of a scope. I think we, as a committee, we have some good idea of a scope. We've talked about it around here. There are examples. Middleborough might have been a little extensive of examples here. I know when David asked for input on the scope, I gave him some input that I thought there should be a standalone task for an assessment center, and I thought that whoever it is should do extended background checks. You know, in addition to queries, there should be phone calls and some background checks and stuff like that. These are things I think that we can put as a rough outline into a scope just to kind of like start some process forward. I also think we should add in there that if the consultant is a retired chief, it'll actually serve as a member of the committee as per the charter of the committee.
No. Sorry, I just want to go back just 1 second. Vicky, you said a lot of the towns didn't use the consultant, but you said that you thought they had more trouble with their hiring process without the consultant. Is that what you said? Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, they did. It was more problematic on many, from many aspects. It was problematic with the townspeople. It was problematic within the select board and the group that they had. The committee was problematic with the police. So it became, the issues that came up were not good for the town at the end of the day. They had to fight that after he was hired or that person was hired, and then, it became a real mess. So.
And you said, Mike, did you do some additional research as well?
Is he on?
Yes, I see his name.
Let him in the room, but I don't see him now. There he is.
Muted.
Mike, are you on here?
He's not
He's
muted.
Yeah.
Vicky, while we're waiting for Mike, did you have any idea about what that dynamic is? Was it just that by hiring an outside expert, it muted the feelings that these were insiders, that it was an inside job?
Yes, that was the biggest part, Chuck. Most of them, especially the ones that were in the newspaper, really said something about, the fact that it was an inside job and people didn't like it. And, it was somebody that was brought in from, the lower ranks or had a lot of ins with the group. So it was multifaceted in terms of, that. But yeah, that was the biggest problem. And some of them hired, were hired to do, they charged per interview. Like one was hired and they charged $7,500 for 5 interviews for 5 candidates that were assessed. Another one, that was Badge Quest in Plymouth. And other ones were brought in to do everything and to be part of the committee. But some of them were just brought in for that one spot to do that work, and then they left the group and then let the group make the decisions. So, I think we're talking about getting somebody more involved. Hi, Mike.
Eric, or Michael, actually, I want to go to Michael first, just because he's on here now, so.
I'm having internet trouble. I apologize. So what I did was I called, I tried to get a hold of the president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. He's a former Wellesley chief, but I haven't gotten a call back yet. He's a busy guy. I spoke to this woman from Wellesley Police Department, Lieutenant Cleary, who was a wealth of information. So she gave me the names of 4 consulting firms that that she knows of that are involved in this stuff. A number of them they've used. She didn't come out and say any of them were bad, but she seemed to say that one of them was particularly good. And I have the names of those if you want them. So she said that their hiring has been pretty much all internal, except for one chief that I think it was McLaughlin that ended up going over and becoming the Milford chief, but they've hired pretty much internally historically, and it's kind of the recommendation of the chief of police outgoing. So, but she still had a lot of information because she's been involved in a lot of these. It's just strange that I got a hold of her because she's been involved with a lot of these assessment centers and these consultants actually. So kind of what some of the things she said was that so the assessment centers are generally put together by the consulting firms based on what the board or the search committee rather decides is important stuff for them to be assessing. So they don't generally come in and say, hey, here's your assessment center. They kind of say to you guys or us, you know, what do you think is important? What would you like to assess in a chief of police candidate? And then they'll put together a station, so to speak, for these group of people to go through. She said that those assessment centers are generally judged by, if it's a chief's position you're trying to fill, they're generally judged by other chiefs. And she seemed to indicate that they would be brought in by the consulting firm because I'm sure I'd be surprised if they're doing that as a volunteer, on a volunteer basis, but maybe they are. She said generally not all the candidates would go through the assessment center. So there'd be you'd whittle down your pool, put them through the assessment center, and then out of that assessment center, you get an even smaller pool that presumably the board or the selectman or whoever's going to actually make the final decision would pick from. She said that, and it's kind of like she gave some examples of what you might find in an assessment center for chief of police. She said, like, appearing before a public meeting, dealing with a personnel issue, actually dealing with an inbox, which I don't know even how you'd assess that. But, it would be more stuff that would be at the chief's level, obviously, than, dealing with some use of force situation out as a police officer would be assessed on. So. And that's kind of what I have. I have the names of the 4 consultants.
Yeah, who are they?
So I have public safety consultants, which seemed to be the person that she was, she said Wellesley's used them a ton. The guy who owns it is Wayne Sampson. The others were Badge Quests.
Yep, that's the one in Plymouth. Yep.
Steve Unsworth. Police Assessment Center Training, which is Alfred Donovan, and MMA Consulting, which is a man by the name of Mark Morse.
No, I can throw him out.
Okay.
The other two that I have.
What do you really think, David?
She wasn't saying she was recommending them. She was just giving
names.
Giving the names, yeah.
I have Community Paradigm and John Parlow Consulting. those two others. How many are in Massachusetts? Do you know?
I don't know, but she made it sound like, probably because there's some money to be made, that a lot of them are, a lot of people are opening these businesses.
Yeah.
They're retiring and starting these businesses. So
Now we have in the queue your recommendation too, Zach. Is that right? What's the name of that firm?
It was the gentleman that Wellesley recommended, which was Public Safety Consultants, the first one that Mike spoke of. If you guys can hear me, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Wayne,
And I know of and Wayne Sampson. I know of a couple other ones too that weren't mentioned. A big one in Massachusetts is Municipal Resources. I have heard of Badge Quest a lot. Badge Quest is, I've heard that it's kind of like a drop in the bucket. It's just such a big operation. MRI, you can kind of say the same thing about Municipal Resources, but
the one thing she said about Badge Quest was that, at least from her perspective, her understanding was that they were more expensive than others, and not necessarily providing
that, and
more stuff.
I've heard that too, and that's the same thing with Municipal Resources, which is another big company in Mass. So
I have an email from Sean Kelly from Municipal Resources. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Sure.
MRI has 30 plus years of direct municipal executive recruiting success. Please browse our website or contact our president, Mr. Alan Gould, for information about how we can assist you identify your next chief of police. Thank you, Sean Kelly. And then I said, thanks for reaching out. And he said, David, if it would be easier, the search committee should feel free to contact me directly at skelly@mri.gov.com. But I don't think you need to bring in consultants to pick their brains.
Not yet.
I think a lot of it is. Sorry, let me recognize. Sorry. Yeah. The same thing as we spoke last week. I think a consultant that can kind of tailor themselves to Sherborn. I don't think, and I'd be interested in other people's thoughts, that we're looking for a turnkey, someone to take resumes and hand us 3 finalists. I think we want to be involved in it too, and someone that can guide us through it and look at all applicants and be with us, whatever. And when I talked to Zach a few weeks ago, it sounded like that public safety consultants, at least I think it's worth giving them a shot at something, and some others as well. What I mean? Because they sounded like, the guy was pretty custom. He came, he worked with them. Zach also said, and I'll let you speak to it, Zach, that there was kind of like one guy was questionable and he did a really good in-depth background check, and that was like extra above and beyond, and that type of stuff I think would work well with this group. And that's what I think.
Yeah. No, go ahead, George. Paul, go ahead.
So I'm in favor of a consultant for 2 reasons. I think what I'm saying is I think we should hire a consultant rather than try and do this ourselves. And my 2 reasons are as follows. The processes that we've done in the past in Sherborn that didn't have a consultant ends up essentially putting ads and passively waits for resumes to arrive and then evaluate those resumes. Instead, I think this is a significant hire for the community. We want someone who will contact people who are not looking for a job, who aren't unemployed and are reading the newspapers and the advertisements every day, seeing what new job opportunity might come up to apply for. I'd rather have an organization who can reach out and try and convince someone who is successful where they are that they ought to consider the town of Sherborn. That's the first reason why I think we should have a consultant. The second reason why I think we should have a consultant is that they bring in the kind of objectivity and absence of politics and all the rest that I think we would benefit from. What makes us a little different from the communities that Vicki and Michael found, and by the way, I think they did a great job and they should be commended. I
Thank you.
really enjoyed reading all that stuff.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
But what makes us different is that we just have gone through a termination process for a chief. And so I want to send a very clear message that this is not politics. This is not anything subjective in terms of who we hire, that it's an objective, above politics approach. We're looking for the best candidate. And wherever that candidate may come from, that isn't to say it's not someone from the town of Sherborn, it may be someone from far away. But the point of an outside consultant is that it sends that message that this is a very objective process. So I want to be sure that any consultant we hire doesn't have any history with the town, and that the people who are employed by the consultant don't live in the town, aren't somehow connected to the town. They literally want a fresh set of eyes looking at the town of Sherborn and figuring out what is the best for us. So for those two reasons, I think we should hire a consultant. I think it's well worth investing, particularly given the importance of this position for the community.
Thanks, Paul. Chuck, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, Paul, those are two really good points. I do, in fact, the first fire chief's search, I think Dave and I were the only two that were on both of those committees. We were just lucky. We got one candidate. How many resumes did we get, Dave? 30 resumes?
Yeah. That was a big number.
We didn't use a consultant, and it was, let's just say it wasn't the cream of the crop. Aaron Kenny stood out so that kind of proves your point. But I think that the point I wanted to make, Paul, was I think both of those selection committees ended up with good hires. Zach was in a different situation where we had a candidate, an internal candidate that we'd identified that we were very interested in. So that's a very different model where I'm not sure you need an outside consultant. But I think your 2 points are very well taken, Paul. So I don't normally like, Mike, he might have had something really good to say. Your son, Michael. I wanted to hear, I was really interested.
I know, I realized how bad that must have looked.
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to send him my business card. I'll represent him in a lawsuit against you. I don't normally like to use retained searches. They're very expensive. In my businesses, I've tried to avoid it, but I think there are really good reasons to do it here. Because there's such an important hire. So I'll go against my frugal nature and agree that I think it'd be useful in this search.
Michael, go ahead.
Okay, the only thing I would say, I agree with everything Paul said, but the only thing I would say is I think just because you hire a consulting firm, the idea that they're going to go out and search out some great candidate for you in law enforcement in Massachusetts, I think is unlikely. I'm not against, I'm not advocating to not hire a consultant by saying this, but that's just the first point I want to make. And the second thing is that I totally think it's the right way to go to, keep town politics out of it. The only thing I would caution is that, I guarantee you that all these consulting firms are probably run by former police chiefs or whatever. Massachusetts is a tiny little state. If you're a police chief in Massachusetts, probably every other police chief in Massachusetts and, probably a lot of police officers. So what I would caution is when you hire one of these search firms that you make sure their politics is not getting involved in the hire. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I had the same thing, Michael. My daughter was just asking me a question, so.
Mike, I'll say I think you have a very good point. It kind of taps on the Paul's point, if you don't mind me saying, is that someone as removed from the town as possible.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great.
Vicky, did you go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, going through everything, the one thing that concerned me is the amount of people that have been hired as police chiefs in the last 2 years, which was significant, and also the amount of job openings that are out there, which is also significant for police chiefs. And I just am a little worried that, the pool of available people is not going to be good for us because it's just kind of, there's a lot of competition out there. So if we do, having a consultant hopefully will help us with that. The question I want to ask is that, are we reaching out to people that are outside of Massachusetts for this job too? Or are we just looking, one for consultants that are just in Mass and one that for police chiefs or people that are in Mass that we want to get as applicants, or are we going to go outside of Massachusetts and look for applicants?
We wouldn't
like we
be
did for
specific.
the fire chief.
We wouldn't be specifically targeting any sort of outside advertising, but some of the local things like the Mass Chiefs of Police would get picked up, and
Right.
it could end up, nationally or on some of those other kind of websites.
Right.
So,
If I could add a comment
Paul,
here.
Paul.
Just speaking as a lawyer, Massachusetts has a lot of peculiar laws. We're one of the original 13 colonies, so we're kind of like one of the oldest states. And so we've accumulated a lot of not commonly known things that you really need, I think, a chief who is familiar with the legal system in Massachusetts. That would be a huge advantage. I would not want to get into the issue of some guy from an entirely different legal system coming here and spending a year or two training to figure out what works in Massachusetts and what doesn't work and how to get things done. And because we want every arrest to count. And fortunately, we're not a community where there's a high incidence of arrests being made, but to the extent that crime hits us, we want the police work to be effective, to be lawful, and not to be thrown out because some arcane technicality in a very old legal system wasn't met.
That makes sense. So do we have, David, do you have a list?
Jeff, sorry, go ahead. Jeff hasn't had a chance to say anything.
On Vicky's point, we may also have to consider, we could get applicants, say, from a university campus police department or something like that. So we may also get people who are familiar with Massachusetts, but maybe have some municipal experience in their background, but may not currently be in a municipal role. Because one advantage, to your concern, Vicky, about not getting candidates is some people may be further along in the career and want a slightly more sedate town rather than being police chief of Brockton or something like that.
Right.
I'm overstating it, but we may get someone who wants to sort of have a little different work-life balance.
That's true, because when you look at the pool of towns that are looking for people, they're primarily, I found Western Mass and Framingham. And I think the Framingham job's a lot different than the Sherborn job. Even though we're neighboring towns, it's a totally different job.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we're not even neighboring towns. It's the city. They're a city and we're a town.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like there are a number of towns that have openings, but I don't see a lot. Maybe Norwell or Middleton are similar to us, but other than that, I don't even compare the other ones to us.
Hey, George.
Yeah.
To echo Michael's point, I think it is unrealistic to think that a recruiter is going to go out and look for you unless there's repeat business. I had one law department that had 12 lawyers, and Major Lindsay in Africa is the biggest legal recruiter in the world. John Roberts' wife works there. I think she makes all the money. I was hiring, one or two people a year. I got great service from them. But unless there's that repeat flow, you simply are not going to get, they're not going to be out there looking for you. They're going to, whoever's available, they'll hopefully identify, but it's just, unfortunately, it's just not realistic to think they're in effect going to be a recruiter for you.
Right. I think it's more important that we're looking at somebody who's going to be able to do the assessment centers for us and help us review the candidates professionally than actually going out and doing the recruitment process. I think more importantly, they're going to help us make the decision on who we want to hire.
Yep.
I saw Zach and Mike both wanted to make a comment. So Zach, I'll start with you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Paul's 2 points about hiring a consultant. I've had connection issues, so I haven't been able to chime in. But back to his first point of, getting the candidates that aren't applying. So my recent experience with one of these assessments was exactly that. We had 35 applicants for a fire chief job. We went forward with 5 of them. We got into doing background checks. On one of the candidates, for instance, I found a really obscure newspaper article from where they were from in New Hampshire, and we wanted to know more. This consultant went and dug up what the real story was, and we determined that we didn't want to hire that person on that. We threw all the candidates out, so we didn't have any candidates, and the consultant went out and found us one. And again, that probably won't happen all the time. I think a lot of things just worked out, but that consultant did find us after the fact, a really good candidate. But I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it's certainly a possibility. But
okay, Michael.
So is the thought that the consulting firm would do the advertising to find candidates? Or, I mean, it just seems to me like everything is kind of done online, Indeed or similar, so it seems, I don't know whether the search, actually the advertisement is something we should be paying a consultant for, but that's just me.
Michael, I think what we should do, my thought is that let's get the qualifications of these, as we mentioned before. Let's see what these firms are proposing, whether it's the recruitment process or if it's just the assessments. I think maybe before we start deciding what we want them to do, let's see what they're proposing and go from there. All right.
Oh, just to kind of, I guess, tap onto what you're saying, very similar. It sounds like we're all on board with consultants. I don't think that's a question.
Right.
The next 2 possible steps, and I think you tapped on one of them, is one, do we narrow down which consultants of which we actually see qualifications for? I know several have been thrown out there. 1 or 2 have come up over and over again. Or 2, do we make an outline of the scope? Just maybe like 5 things we want to do without going, I read, who is it, Milbury's or whatever, and that's huge, it's detailed, many pages. Do we want to make this some kind of outline? I mean, we talked about that last week and having it this week. Is it worth doing something like that so we can just hand an outline to someone and say, hey, hand us your quals similar to this or what? This is a point of discussion.
Yeah, you should have a paragraph of the scope with unique details that you think that you would want. Like specifically you would want their ideas on the assessment center.
Like, as I think like number 1, like as you go in order, help with the job description. I think a consultant would come in, help us with a job description that goes key into the advertisement and so on like that. 2, vetting of candidates. 3 would be, background checks. 4 would be assessment center. Something along those lines would be like some kind of basic outline of this to help, as Paul said, an objective, analysis of this and help us through things. These are things, I don't know if any of us here in this entire group are, well, maybe Michael is experts on a job description on a chief,
I think Vicky identified a number of firms earlier and David threw one of them out, obviously. And I think that if David throws them out, let's throw them out. But I think the other one, I think it was about, what was it, Vicky, 6 or 7 firms that you identified. And I think there were 2 others that maybe Michael had said, or I can't remember who else said it.
I think we have 5. I have 1, 2, I have 3, and Michael had 2. So I think there's 5.
I had 4.
You had 4. Okay, so then there's 6. Yeah.
We were told to get rid of 1, so.
Yeah.
There's at least
minus the
six.
one that David said to get rid of, I think we should reach out to those firms and just get an idea of, with, like you said, David, maybe you prepare a paragraph for us to review that says, this is what we want you to prepare for us. And we get an idea of what services they're providing, whether it's from job description to assessment centers and that kind of thing. And really see, there could be a wide range of scope that these guys are offering. And we may decide, that'll help us decide which firm we think is the best for us.
At least narrow it down to a few.
Yeah, Jeff?
So Eric just listed, I think, were some good steps that we could ask for them. I'm wondering if we want from them, either them or our personnel board, we're going to need to have a salary range for when we advertise a position, you generally advertise the salary range. So will we need to have either our personnel board or this consultant do a benchmarking assessment of a salary range? If you look at the data Vicky pulled together, the salaries are way below what we're currently paying Chief Thompson.
We have, we already have salary ranges set for those positions. It's a wide range. It's whether you want to publish it or not upfront, or
yeah.
Sometimes we say like the last chief, the last salary was X amount.
Yes.
But if you think that's too high, then we would not want to do that again.
I don't think you want to put that out there. I think we want to say commiserate. I mean, as it is in the professional world, commiserate with experience, or we leave a range out there of where it can be based on who we find.
In the last Chiefs on negotiation salary, we actually went to a lot of comparable towns. We had a pretty good spreadsheet on that.
Yes.
I think we got some good data ourselves even.
For Sherborn?
Yeah. And we did, we looked at a lot of surrounding towns.
Yes.
But I think there's a big difference between a salary for a chief who's been there for, let's say, 11 years versus a new chief who's like never been a chief before and is starting out.
Absolutely.
So I like the idea of not scaring anybody off and not over committing,
right?
So that we get the widest possible pool. I mean, I would like to look at experienced chiefs, but I would also like to look at less experienced chiefs too, to see what works best for the town.
Right. Now, I think what we need to do from here is just kind of, I think we've had a lot of discussion here, a lot of good discussion, is let's reach out to those consultants. Well, let's first have David prepare what we want to present to the consultants. And we'll review that at our next meeting and then from there, David can reach out to each of those consultants with that description that we agree to next meeting, and we can get proposals from them as to what scope of service they're going to provide. Does that make sense, Eric?
You want to combine any of the, only because it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks to our next meeting. So we're not going to be Christmas Eve, right? Okay.
No.
Just making sure of that.
Hey, I'm not going anywhere this year, so.
Yeah, right. Who is, right?
The COVID Christmas. Let's have select board. I don't know if you want to
We could actually meet if Michael and Vicky, if you're available next week, maybe we could meet, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before our select board meeting so we can move it along.
Yeah.
When is your meeting? Tuesday?
Thursday, the 17th.
So
with the Tuesday meeting, something different, Vicky,
Okay.
that's for a finance related issue, but our regular meeting is the 17th.
There's 3 weeks to make a paragraph, and then so we need to actually kind of do both those at once. It seems like the paragraph will be easy. That's all.
Yeah, David can circulate the paragraph before that meeting, and then at our next meeting, we'll say, yes, go ahead with this and reach out to this list of consultants.
So what are Vicky and I doing between now and next meeting? Anything special?
Reading whatever David sends you.
Gotcha. Right.
David, I can send you the notes I have.
And
or
if you find any other consultants that you think we should consider, Michael.
Okay.
Let us know. I think we need to make that final list of consultants at our next meeting as well.
Also, they were supposed to be setting me up with a Sherborn email address, which if that's happened, I missed an email because I don't think I have that yet. So
Michael, this is Diane. You do have it. It was sent to you. I'll resend it to you.
Okay, I'm sure
Kevin
you
Whit-
did. I looked for it today and I can't find it. So.
Yeah, Kevin Whitman, actually, I sent you an email today and it went there because I know it didn't bounce back.
And
but
that'll
Kevin Whitman-
explain how I set up a password and everything.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
I'll resend it to you.
That's okay, Michael. I don't even know my password right now, but thankfully I don't have to remember it. So
George, what time do you want me to set the meeting for next Thursday? 6 o'clock, 6:30?
Are you guys okay with 6:30? Eric,
Yep.
are you okay as the select board chair that we do a 6:30 meeting for this group before our
That sounds
7 o'clock meeting?
That sounds great.
Does
Yep.
everybody else, does that work
Yep.
for you, Paul? 6:30?
Yes.
I also want to add to the scope meeting minutes. I want to relieve Diane of have a life every other Thursday.
Thank you.
For the
Uh,
scope.
David, I'll send you my notes and the list that I have. If you want to, yeah, and then Michael will send you his names also. And then once we go through this, if you want to have us, I'm happy to contact some of these people and make sure we get the information from them.
Sure.
I think that's it then. We'll
Yep.
plan on meeting at 6:30 next week.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Alright.
you.
Move to adjourn.
So
So
move.
move.
Second.
All in favor, Eric,
Yep. Yes.
Vicky,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Chuck,
Yeah.
Michael,
Now you did that.
and Zach. I think you're still on the phone, so.
Aye.
All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you
Thank
next week at
you.
6:30.
Have a good night. Thank
Night.
you.
Thanks.